Okay, everyone. A couple things since we last met. Vinay has come up with a couple of new things, and I'm gonna bring those up real quick. Let me start by just clearing my screen. Make sure that there isn't anything. Just got a message from Vinay that he's running a little late. I'm just going to make sure the invite for the live stream is posted. All right, so let's do this. Hey, TJ.
Oh, there we go. Sorry, this is actually the second meeting that I have been late to today because of this goddamn Try Hack Me just opened their Advent hacking competition open, which it's
Nice.
got the outside facing, this is new and for beginners into cybersecurity, but it's got side quests. And I have spent the last 2 hours wrestling packets out of Wireshark. I finally got the 4-way handshake, and I got the right 4-way handshake. And now I'm waiting for it to. I'm running a 10 million password dump through AirCrack, trying to get the Wi-Fi password.
Wow.
I have learned. I've got like a basic proficiency at Wireshark now.
Yeah. Nice.
And that, and also dealing with a $40,000 hospital bill.
Oh man, doesn't sound good.
The hospital paid the wrong insurance for my surgery.
Oh,
it's
wow.
taken care of. But hey, Vinay.
Hey, Vinay.
Hey.
Yes. Finally, I just cracked it. I got the password to the Wi-Fi.
Nice.
Vinay, I'm doing the tryhackme.com's. It's their Advent holiday hacking competition.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been working for 3 or 4 hours to get the password cracked out of a Wi-Fi handshake. And I just got it.
Nice. Yeah, I have to get started with some of the Advent CTFs. I haven't yet started. So maybe this weekend I'll start.
So I think we're at a point where, let me share my screen. This is where as much as I'm hoping that things will slow down up before the holidays, it just seems like things are going to be crazy, at least until the end of next week. I don't know if that's your experience as well, Vinay.
Yes, looks like everybody wants to get stuff done before they go for holidays, so it's kind of a race against time.
Yes. Yeah, I am totally with you. Not to say that I'm
Mhm.
not having fun doing the work, but it's just prioritizing. You know, like
Yeah,
yeah, um, yeah,
to some extent, Copilot and ChatGPT I've been able to use to help me speed things up.
yes.
So,
That GPT I was working with, granted, it takes just the
mhm.
premium subscription. I'll let me share the copy link. I had to make it public in order to get it the new updates to take.
Mhm.
Um, it's still not the best at right. Well, I mean, it's doing a lot better. Um, it's doing a lot better if you give it information. Um,
Hmm.
it it'll spit out an ADM. It may not be the best thing, and a lot of it brings up the FOMOSEC
Mhm.
tags because it doesn't understand the subtle nuances yet that I'm barely beginning to grasp. But it's
Yeah.
gotten better. I've also made it to where anytime you ask it to give you an ADM, it prints it out into a text box where you can just copy.
Mhm.
It's not doing that whole weird formatting thing.
Okay.
I think the next step is just feeding it files to reference, like feeding it good examples to reference, so that it's got a solid base.
Mhm.
But I've used it to clean up, like for that one that we did that I sent you, Rod, for the other people.
Hmm.
I wrote it out and then I put it through the bot to clean it up and make sure the wording and fix my spelling mistakes.
Nice.
One thing I've seen the bot do a good job at is basically come up with all the security topics. So in the guide that I wrote, I gave you 65 topics, right?
Hmm.
What TJ's GPT can do is basically figure those out. So you can use TJ's GPT as is to get started or kick started with the list of attacks and defenses. It will still not be able to connect them into a nice graph. That's where it's struggling, but it will have enough attacks and defenses to get your brains running about whether you want to go into details of a specific attack or break them up into different scenarios and so on. It's a good starting point to like really get up to speed.
And actually, that just reminded me, I'm going to put the builder's guide. I'm going to feed it the builder's guide that you wrote for us.
Mhm.
I'm going to have to download this. Oh, hell, download. Oh, download RTF. Yeah, I'm going to feed it to it right now, and then it'll give an update. Come on, load file. Okay. Come on.
Let me share it. I wanted to ask you guys something real quick. Uh, so I did a Git pull on the latest version of, or not Git pull, but I did it. I just recloned it, right? I just created a new directory just to preserve what I was doing in the, because what I've been doing is just creating these. I have a Git folder, and every time I start a new version of what I'm doing, I know this is sort of anti-Git, but I wanted to just make sure I saved all of my files in that directory. So all I did is copy them over to the new workspace, and I still have all the stuff I'm working on. So, uh, TJ, when you and I spoke last, right? Was there in the new workspace every time you create? Was there what was that script you were telling me about?
Okay,
That
so once you've got like open up an ADM you're working on.
okay, like this one.
And now open up the and that's fine there. So just go into a terminal.
Okay.
Now type ADMCI and then your ADM.
So it's a
Whatever
single
file.
word. ADMCI is a single word.
Oh, okay. Okay. Exploiting. Yeah.
Now just hit the Mac keys and S for save. It's so cool to watch this. Now you'll see you've got a graph.png. Click on that and open it to the side. And then go back to your ADM. So now once you scrunch over your directory on the side and expand out, as you're working, all you have to do is hit S and hit save, control S, command S, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it is so, because it honestly it makes me think that I'm building in Xcode with Swift UI with a live preview. Like as you do something, it's right there. And it is, Vinay, I absolutely love that feature.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Pretty soon, the ADM web, it will give you the same experience without VS Code.
It comes up on iPad. It comes up but because there's no mouse to do the scroll, yeah. I'm like, I think I could pop or I could use my daughter's. Might be able to use. I have to test it out on my daughter's iPad because she's got a keyboard that's got a trackpad on it for her iPad. I need to test to see if it works.
Yeah, so the tablet support is what I'm going to work over the weekend. It's like a 2-hour work. It's not a big deal. It's basically I handle a few more events on the web. So by Monday, you should have a fully tablet version ready.
That is.
Yeah, that's neat.
And I'm trying to get all of this in my head and make sure that I'm practicing and everything, because there's a community of veterans that I'm a member of that are it's veterans and a few civilians that are helping us transition. Mm-hmm. And in January, I'm going to be giving a class to the Discord server about ADM and threat hunting.
Nice.
And hopefully you might see a lot more traffic to that web page, because there's some people that are really interested in it. But being that it's Thanksgiving and Christmas, we've stopped our Wednesday classes until the new year.
Yeah.
This is really nice.
And here's the so once enough ADMs get put in the ADDB, GitHub Copilot will start pulling and recognizing when you're writing ADMs.
So Copilot can do it today with just 10 to 12 lines. Where it's really struggling is it doesn't know where to stop. So when I was trying out the web version of it, so I wanted some test examples that I was exploring, and it would start creating attacks and defenses nicely. It will give me some links to MITRE ATT&CK. When it came to the level of CVEs, so I took the SSH example. It started listing all CVEs from OpenSSH since the beginning of version 1. That's more like 100 or 200 attacks. And honestly, not everybody cares about it, because most probably people are running the most recent 5 or 6 versions. They won't pick up a version that's 20 years old, right? And Copilot cannot figure that out. So I ended up having an ADM with 200 attacks, out of which at least 150 are not useful anymore. It does a good job at finding attacks, but it doesn't know where to stop.
That's what I do like about which. Let me make sure that you have. Did you upload? No, because I squirreled again. My ADHD is strong today. I tried to upload it as an RTF, and then it only wanted to accept it for code interpreter. Okay, update. Public confirm. So here momentarily, the assistant will have the builder's guide in its brain.
I'll probably also work on updating the builder's guide to list attacks and defense topics, like you said last time. Sometimes people who are more on the pen testing side may not derive a lot of value from just a list of defense topics, right? So
Mhm.
I'll spend some time next week or over the holidays on updating the attack side of the same list.
Can you
Okay, builder's guide's been published to it.
can you talk a little bit about the contribution process? I know we kind of touched on it the
Mhm.
last time we met, but
Yeah.
that was one topic, and then just given what's going on up
Mhm.
until next week, I wanted to kind of lay out more of a revised
Mhm.
plan.
Yeah. So a few things. What I want is the main philosophy is the ADM should have some good quality to it so that
Mhm.
people see value. If I just open it up to everybody to upload any kind of ADM they have, you'll just have a flood of ADMs that are either half constructed or just poorly written. It may still generate a diagram, but it may not provide much detail. So quality is where I want to have any kind of guardrails in the contribution process. One of it is you should be quoting all your sources.
Mm.
You have pulled it from a blog. I want you to quote your sources, not because I want to know where you got it from. That's not the intent. The intent is that the reader who is going to look at your ADM also wants to go back to the source and see why you set it up like that.
Mhm.
Sometimes
Okay.
they may see something that they may want to add to your model, or it may trigger them to create another model that have to like be used along with yours. And that's how the community starts getting built up. Like when each one of us build on top of each other's model, pretty soon you'll have a large model that can cover many things.
Mhm.
So quoting sources is something I want to keep as a very important step in that. Second is I need a few moderators who would review every submission to make sure it's just not some flaky ADM that somebody has just submitted. Some kind of now what should the moderator look for is something we'll have to sit and work on. But eventually there will be a moderator's guide, a short one. I'm hoping for that the moderators would use to confirm that this ADM is of good quality and we can merge it with your main line.
That that would be a really interesting thing to do. I
Mhm.
almost think that becoming a moderator helps to tool a person to be a good uh, ADM writer, because you have to understand not only the domain area but also the syntax and the intent
Yeah.
behind it. Yeah, I think that's something I'd like to help out with if you're open to it.
Yeah. So to get started, I'll be one of the moderators.
Hmm.
So naturally, it's not like you'll be. I won't throw you as a lone guy to deal with everything.
Yes,
We'll all
yes.
be collaborating on the moderation, but eventually, I would like to have a bunch of moderators who can take up that responsibility, because all of us have personal lives, all of us have vacations that we go on.
Hmm.
So one person cannot maintain a repository forever.
It, you would almost want to have prerequisites. What skill sets would you want to have? And then if someone were starting at a certain point of
Hmm.
skills and experience, here's the training that you would probably want to, things you would want to read. Like you had me read the Kelly Shortridge uh,
Hmm.
articles, but I can think there's that 1 hour miter attack.
Hmm.
Like Cyber has a great miter attack
Yeah.
training. Like start.
So, yeah, those are the few ones. Kelly Shortridge's blog, so that you know
Yeah.
what a decision graph means.
Yes.
Second is your MITRE ATT&CK training.
Mm-hmm.
Third is probably comfort with the language.mde file, basically the language document that I have. So when you read it, you basically understand how is this relationship between defense and attack happening. It shouldn't look like magic to the moderator. When they see the diagram, they'll understand. But when they look at the code, they should be able to figure out why is the diagram doing that. And level 2 for the moderator is probably to identify scenarios where you can replace tags with actual when and then statements, because tags is the easiest way to connect attack and defense,
Mm-hmm.
but that is meant to be a shortcut where no other option works. I don't want contributors to just use tags for everything, because then you will lose out on the incident response side of the picture,
Mm-hmm.
because tags automatically assume it's preemptive defense, and there is no way for a tag to figure out whether it's incident response. So I want people to use those 5 rules of statement matching to build their ADMs. So if somebody does end up using tags for their model, the moderator may have to handhold the contributor if it's the first time to
Mm-hmm.
kind of help him modify it and move it from tags to when and then statements. So that's probably level 2 for a moderator.
You say like level 1 for a moderator is start out by having like a base.
Yeah, know the language, know the blog, know MITRE ATT&CK. Yeah,
Language, the blog.
yeah, know what is decision tree modeling from Kelly Shortridge. Yeah.
Decision tree modeling. Shortridge.
And then how to look for information on MITRE ATT&CK.
Look. Information on attack.
The last one basically, although it's not a prerequisite, they basically should be able to go to the source and verify whatever he's written is actually authentically from the source.
It's from the source, right? Like you'd
Yeah.
be able to read it over and then you'd be able to read the source and say, okay, they're kind of close, right? Like
Yeah.
it looks like it came from that. Okay. And I think one of the other things you mentioned was like we want to have contributors, because I don't want to forget this, list their source.
Yeah.
So that anyone reading it afterwards can understand the basis for the model, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Another thing which I haven't yet figured out how to solve is how do you handle situations where the source is proprietary, maybe. Let's say you have some kind of an attacker who has breached some target, for example. It may be proprietary or controlled through various copyright or patent rights.
Yeah.
So the moderator will have to, or at least I don't have a guidance for the moderator yet on how to detect and follow up and verify that. But we'll need some kind of mechanism. We may have to look at other open source projects to see how they handle it. Like Linux deals with it all the time. How do you figure out if a contribution to the Linux kernel is not infringing on a patent, for example?
Mm-hmm.
A similar problem will arise for us, but I don't want to enforce it to get started with, because we don't know what kind of contributors we would get.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually, the first instance will kind of trigger us to go down that path. Like we need a mechanism there.
Hmm. Yeah. How about aside from being proprietary controlled, is there some sensitivity on gathering information about how a how an organization was attacked, in so much as not wanting to provide instructions to someone to go back in and
Yeah, we don't want to be a scapegoat for somebody else's crime.
yeah, yeah, like a cookbook for, like, the anarchist cookbook for hacking, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do we uh,
So
address that?
one probable rule is any submission, the submitter should have to confirm that it's from a public source, and that kind of connects back to the first one, saying if you don't quote your source, we don't accept your submission.
Must confirm that the source is a public source.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in terms of data classification, normally we talk about four, right? Public, internal, restricted, and confidential.
I must have missed one. Public,
Yeah,
uh,
restricted.
restricted.
Public, internal, restricted, and confidential.
Hmm.
Yeah. So we'll only accept public some anything that's categorized under public. So the content inside the model as well as the source should be public. It cannot be from any other uh, class of data. The source must be public. The data inside the model should be public. So, for example, in the attack, you cannot post the IP address of a specific company and say this IP is attacked, or specific domain address and say this company's subdomain X was attacked. We don't want that.
No. Yeah, I agree. Agree. What do you? So it got kind of lends itself to the idea of sanitizing. Like, what are things that would have to be? Almost want to come up with list of things, right?
Yeah.
List of items to be sanitized. I'm just kind of roughly putting it that. So, like, for example, like you said, like, we shouldn't put IP addresses in there, even
Mhm.
if, right? No.
IP addresses, domain names, anything that's covered under privacy laws. That would include your driver's license, SSN, date of birth, address, name, the whole 9 yards, basically.
Yes. Okay. Okay.
So again, this is just a course, or rather brainstorming. We'll have to come up with an exact list or a checklist for a moderator um, to be able to easily moderate. Because let's assume you are the moderator. I don't want you scratching your head on a Friday evening to whether allow the submission or not, because this is a class of data that you have never seen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Long term, I want the moderator to probably spend a few minutes figuring out whether it should be allowed or not. If not, flag it up to level 2 review where we actually sit down and brainstorm about it.
Mm-hmm.
Much of the submissions in the long run should probably take a few minutes or maybe half an hour at the max,
Mm-hmm.
and can be done by a moderator independently without asking for help.
And our goal is to try to keep everything inside of GitHub, right? Like all the
Yes.
tagging, all the, like, communication.
Yeah.
Uh, okay. So goal is to do all contributions within GitHub using native GitHub functionality
Yeah.
to facilitate the workflow and communications, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we want the moderators to be able to review in a like you want it to be able to
Independently review a submission without needing assistance from other moderators.
submission without
Needing help from, yeah.
the moderators. How does this generally work when you stand up like an open like a community like this, Vinay?
Mhm.
Is it make sense to have it like I hadn't looked at because I know when you post something to open source, like there are different open source models, like MIT licensing. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
when you have a community like this and you stand a community up, how do people typically go about setting up these things so that they're recognized as a open source community?
Mhm.
Is it
So normally, large popular open source projects,
yes?
it happens organically where you may start with a simple submission where you have fixed the typo in some documentation.
Mm-hmm.
Over time, when you start making more contributions and making contributions to some key areas that
Mm-hmm.
have an impact on the project, that's when you start getting recognized as somebody to look up to. Like when you Linux is a classical example.
Mm-hmm.
Although everybody knows Linus Torvalds, there are a bunch of folks in the Linux community that everybody knows about
Mm-hmm.
because they have been moderators, they have been key contributors for a very long time.
Does the fact that there is the GitHub repo and that we have active,
Mhm.
I'm just trying to say like I've made a few like really simple suggestions to like open source repos, but by having a repo, does that constitute having like an open source community, so to speak? I'm not sure that my question was worded right.
Yeah. So just because you have an open source report doesn't mean you have a community.
Yes.
I am a classic example for that. Until the time I presented those to you guys, I
Yes.
was the only guy running it.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Probably nobody even knows that such a repo exists.
Yes.
The thing is, the things with open source is people join the community because they see value in what you're doing.
Yes.
So there is this classic video, I forgot where it was. It's an example of how communities get built. You basically, I think it's a music festival where everybody's listening to music, sitting down on the grass. One guy starts dancing.
Mm-hmm.
Three more guys like that he was dancing and join him. And slowly, within the next 10 minutes, you have like hundreds of people dancing all around the place. That's how you also build an open source community. The initial set of people who set the foundation for the community,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of will drive the success of the community for a long time. It kind of sets the philosophy for the community.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And
Okay.
it's eventually it's a self-serving cycle. So once the community is stable, you don't even have to handhold many people. People will automatically self-organize around it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I guess just to keep things simple, then, if uh, I could drop this in our Discord channel, just so that,
Mhm.
but um, where in terms of rolling out like the whole contribution process, is that something
Mhm.
you wanted to try to do before the end of the year, or were you thinking like beginning of next 2024?
I'm open to people contributing even today if they have any ADMs.
Yeah.
Um, so historically, I've seen how Linux did it. Like Linus Torvalds posted it. A bunch of guys started submitting fixes to what he did, and they eventually became moderators. We can go down that path. Whoever starts submitting, whoever is a prolific submitter, slowly gets a moderator kind of access, and they'll be given this moderator's guide, which they'll start using to look at other people's submission and not just their own.
Hmm.
We can go down that route, or we can like get started with moderators and submitters kind of buckets, which is a little more aggressive. I don't know whether that would work or not, but I'll probably wait for the first few submissions before I make the call.
Okay. Okay. If we wanted to contribute today, is the mechanism within, or did you want some help with building out the mechanism within GitHub? Because I'd like to contribute today, and I'm going to set some goals because things should be slowing down for me. And one of my goals is to get to the point where I'm trying to create a quality, or at least create an ADM every week,
Mm-hmm.
and then, maybe it's as simple as just at first it's just simple, just going attack and defense.
Mm-hmm.
But then I want to get into regular practice of studying attacks and like have a regular practice every week of studying, contributing, and then moderating. That's kind of what I'd like to do over the next year. I'm thinking my 2024 is going to be that, because I think that'll make me a better blue teamer by doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. To get started, probably we also should figure out where every model should go. Like, how do you group them into directories? I have some thoughts over it. I can drop it in Discord if you want.
Yeah, that's
But
good.
that's also something we have to collectively decide on.
Where-
Because
Okay.
today, if you go to security design /ADDB, you will find some basic structure in place. It's not complete.
Mhm. Yeah, I was looking. Yeah, flows in the wild.
So flows are basically for protocols,
Hmm.
and in the wild are basically whatever breaches we have seen and people have blogged about it. That goes into the in the wild to the point till the point where we find a better home for it.
Hmm.
Then technologies are basically what they are. Now, when you say database technology, there are a few attacks on the technology side itself, but how you implement the technology is also the next side of it. For example, MySQL may not go under technology eventually. It may be under a directory called vendor or directory called product, something like that.
Hmm.
That structure is also something we'll have to sit and brainstorm on. So when as a moderator you get a submission, you want to see where do you want to put it under.
Hmm.
Now at this point we haven't spoken about ADSM, so some of the YAML files you can ignore.
Hmm.
Once we have that structure, every directory will have an ADM subdirectory under which all your ADM files will go. And once we get to a point where we have like 10 or 15 ADMs, I'll start talking about ADSM, and then you can see why the YAML is structured like that.
Okay. I think this sounds good. Um, where just given like the pace of things between now and the end of the year, what would be a reasonable thing for us as a group, and then how could individuals plug into that?
So, two things we'll have to immediately decide on is the directory structure.
Hmm.
So, whoever is the moderator, they should know where to put an accepted submission. Yeah. So, the second one is who should be the moderator apart from me? Like, I can outright say Rod and TJ also are moderators, but unless you guys have cycles or time to do that, you don't want somebody to submit and then start pestering you guys to accept the submission. There's a social angle to that when it comes to moderation.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree, and I think I would want to improve my skill set a little bit
Mhm.
over the next, like I between now and the holidays.
Mhm.
That's my goal, is like to improve my skill set so I feel a little more confident, and then
Yeah.
with both the syntax and sort of the domain area.
Yeah. So in that case, probably I'll get started as the sole moderator, at least to have some foundation.
Yes.
And over time, we can circle back and see the next time whether we are ready to add more moderators.
Okay. Okay. Um, for these live streams, for the,
Mhm.
because we have, I know there's this Friday, next Friday, I have some personal issues. I might be out next week,
Mhm.
but let's say maybe we have 3 more live streams between now and the end of the year. Uh, what would you say would be a good way to move forward with the live streams, to have both a useful live stream session and a way to move the group forward? Would it be to go ahead? Sorry, you were going to say something.
Yeah. So I was wondering whether should we have a separate video call for just us to
Yes.
work, figure out some of the strategies internally,
Yes.
because not everybody wants to listen into the details of strategy brainstorming.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So that can be a separate meeting. When do we have it? How frequently we have it is we can still debate that. But Friday live streaming probably, I would say long term should be focused on modeling specific scenarios that we found that week or that month, because you will see breaches come out every week, every month.
Yes.
And one good way to capture people's attention is to actually build a ADSM of something they read last week.
Ah, yeah.
So
Yeah.
think about it. Recently, there was a casino breach.
Yes.
Within 2 weeks, you had an ADM that you published.
Yes.
That would get a lot of security folks interested in seeing how exactly the flow looks. And it probably they'll use it as a way to make more sense of the blog itself, because sometimes it's so detailed that without dedicated time they cannot understand what how exactly it happened.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. What What about a mix of, because there's going to be people that are going to get what there are going to be people that are at varying levels of both
Hmm.
skill with ADM, ADSM, and
Hmm.
then there are going to be people that are also maybe new to security. There will also be like really experienced practitioners. Could we have like different types of live streams, and we could say, hey, this live stream is going to be this live is going to be that. Like there could be a live stream where it could be just like simple, hey,
Hmm.
attack defense. Here's a couple of really simple examples. This is how you do it. And then there could also be, like you said, like if one time a month we pick
Yeah.
uh, one that we really decompose, and then the people that are like, maybe if we said like the third week of
Mhm.
every month we do we take a recent attack and we decompose it, right?
Yeah, we can do that. I have seen a few Twitch streamers and YouTubers do that. For
Yes.
example, I have been following this guy called RWX Rob.
Hmm.
He's both on Twitch and on YouTube. Nowadays, he doesn't put videos on technical stuff,
Hmm.
but he's a veteran in the area of SRE and Linux stuff. Like I have been following him for the past 3 years, and that's how he structures it. Every Sunday is a beginner boost, what he calls.
Mm.
Beginner boost is for folks who are just getting started on Linux. So
Hmm.
he'll start from what is a virtual machine? How do you install one? And how do you install a container? What is the difference between a container and a VM?
Hmm.
And as he talks, he's actually typing it out on the screen, which you can follow on a YouTube video. On Twitch stream, you cannot, but he'll always upload it back into YouTube once he's done streaming.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I've learned a lot about Linux and Bash scripting from him. So yeah, a similar structure is a good idea. I would agree. It's worked for people before.
Okay. Okay. Because I consider like you have like sort of that PhD level, and I'm still up. I kind of feel like I'm a classic example of somebody that, okay, I've done security. This is like blue teaming. I wouldn't say I'm completely new to it, but
Mhm.
I'm still. I would agree that I'm taking. My thought is I'm taking a beginner's mindset,
Yeah.
right? Like, so I could probably chronicle my journey by like,
Mhm.
hey, I've this is how I do it. I could share it with people. People could comment on it. Like I could probably take like the beginners
Mhm.
boost sessions as I learn and kind of
Yeah,
yeah.
we can do that. The only thing we'll have to figure out eventually is, do you want to have exercises at the end of the like beginner sessions,
Hmm.
and how do you coordinate on the exercises? Like, I can always list few exercises, but if somebody is not actually spending time solving it, me taking time to define it and setting up evaluation criteria is really useless. So that is something we probably can delay till early next year to
Yes.
figure out, should we include exercises and how do we evaluate them.
Hmm.
But till then, we can definitely have a bunch of beginner streams, probably
Hmm.
once a month, once a fortnight, whichever works for you guys.
Yeah, I think that sounds good. Sounds good. Um, what would be a good 2-week plan for us? Like between now and our next time we meet, what would you want? What would you think we want to accomplish over the next week?
So basically, know how to apply the rules of ADM. Like, if I tell you create an attack and a preemptive defense, you know exactly which statements need to match.
Hmm.
Like, you have to be comfortable with those 5 rules.
Hmm.
Tagging is the easiest one. So fifth rule, it's pretty straightforward, and I think that's the favorite rule for TJ in the past few days. But the other rules take a little time to get comfortable. Like, it should come naturally to you, and for that you need to write some sample scenarios. It can be just wild hypothetical scenarios that you may not see in the field.
Hmm.
But basically, when I say chain to attacks, you should know that the title of attack 1 should be in the given statement of attack 2. I don't have to really help people fix that problem.
Yeah.
Or if both when statements between attack and defense match, that means the defense is a preemptive defense for this attack. That image that I had put up in ADM repository, if you can understand that, if you know that image like the back of your hand, we should be able to run much faster with the rest of the stuff.
So you mean like this image, right?
No, no.
Or
If you go to the original ADM repository, like Vinay programs/ADM,
okay, let me go back to.
yeah. It's not under security design, it's under my personal repository
Any programs.
/ADM. Yeah. So if you scroll down, there's the image that you see.
This one, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you basically need to know this, or how this connection works in each of these 5 rules.
Okay. Okay.
So if I say attack 2 is chained from attack 1, I don't have to really tell you which statements have to match.
Okay.
Because if you know these, then building attacks and defenses should be pretty fast. And we should be able to cover one scenario per stream at least.
Okay. Okay. I think that sounds like a reasonable goal. TJ, is there anything you wanted to ask? I think this is good for me.
No, I'm great. What I had been doing, Vinay, is I'd just been finding things that had happened.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm working on I'd have to pull it up. I'm working on a Jenkins SSH hack.
Mm-hmm.
It happened like in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
Finding things that happened fresh is and citing sources. Those are my two big takeaways. Instead of doing things that happened in the past that we've already analyzed, go at the new stuff.
Yeah. Eventually, we'll go back to the older stuff also, but that's like the long tail that we'll have to spend time on eventually. We want to get started with the ones that people care about today before we go back to the history of why something happened.
Okay. All right. I think I'm good for right now. I know we only have 7 minutes left. Vinay, did you have anything else you wanted to talk about?
You said 2 week plan. For week 2, if
Yeah.
you can pick one latest scenario or hack that you guys would be interested in, week 2 we can actually sit down and create a full ADM for it.
Recent hack, and we'll create an ADM for it. Okay. Okay.
So the way I would like to structure week 2 is one of you would be taking the attacker's role and another would be taking a defender's role. And then you both will go look at the blog to find out where the attack information was and what the defense information was. And then you'll start adding to the model.
So the big one, well, I got like 3 different messages from it last night. Apparently, Google Chrome, if you're using Google Chrome, you need to update it immediately because they have had one case in the wild of somebody abusing something from the 2D engine that Chrome uses to steal all your personal data out of your Google account. So there's this huge push. Everybody update Chrome now.
Yeah, in the past few weeks, there have been a lot of urgent fixes that has come out from not just Google, even Apple and a few others have pushed it.
I've got an email earlier today, or it might have been right this morning from Sands that was just, when I opened it up, it was just phone screen after phone screen of all sorts of vulnerabilities that have come out this week.
Yeah. Some industrial automation system got hacked somewhere. I forgot the name of the company whose PLC was basically targeted. So industrial automation attacks are slowly coming back. I hadn't heard of them in the past few months, but looks like attackers are slowly getting back into full speed, like everybody else in the software industry.
All right. Well, gentlemen, I've got to bounce. I have got to head on to Fort Drum to take care of a couple of things before it gets too late. Vinay, as always, thank you so much for taking this time with us.
Yes. Thank you, Vinay.
It's my pleasure.
Okay. Y'all have a good weekend.
Okay.
You
You
guys
too,
have a good
Vinay. Have a good night.
You too have a
I'm gonna
good night.
drop.